local people, important issues. CBS 10 WILM's weekly focus on the Lower Cape Fear region. This is Byline Wilmington with your host, Don Ansell.
Welcome and good morning. Well, some call her the most independent voice on Wilmington City Council. She cast the only no vote on the annexation initiative by the city and has taken other stands that have bucked the system and the majority. Wilmington City Councilwoman Christy Tomey joins us for this edition of Byline. Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for being here.
Happy to be here.
Is that accurate? Would you say you're an independent voice?
Well, I'm the only independent on council, so that seems to reason that I am much more of an independent voice, I think, yes.
Yeah, not a Republican, not a Democrat, but an independent.
Absolutely.
That's unusual.
I think so.
On council, has there ever been a...
I don't believe so. I believe I am the first independent on council.
Let's start off with your thoughts on all of that uproar about council and staff and the trip to Washington, D.C. You're smiling. What do you think about that whole story, first of all? Do you think it was a tempest in a teapot? Do you think it was overblown?
Well, I think that a lot of folks right now are very disgruntled with government from the top to the bottom, and we are the closest thing that anybody can come and speak to. I did not go on the Washington, D.C. trip last year because we had a $5 million shortfall from the property tax from New Hanover County.
But you went this year.
But I did go this year, and I will tell you why I did go this year. This is the first time ever that there's been federal stimulus monies available to municipalities. And we have a brand new senator, Senator Kay Hagan, whom I have never met before. And I thought that it was very important to go up there and show force and request those monies because unfortunately, that system doesn't work very well with email. I mean, what they really want is to see people's faces, shake hands, have a real conversation about it. In
your mind, that was the purpose of the trip, to go in force.
Absolutely.
To get your share of the pie, so to speak, the stimulus pie.
Absolutely, because that money comes down to the state of North Carolina, and I thought it was very important that we go. We all make, that decision independently on whether they go, but we did talk about it, and we did feel as a unit that it was important that all of us go.
I know there are still questions in people's minds about the entire council and some staff.
Sure.
Why they had to make the trip. You say because you thought a show of force would have been a stronger comment on it?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we went to see all of our representatives while we were up there because, frankly, that's where they work. And it's not just to go and see your representatives, but it's just as important to go and see their staff and the people who run the show and the operations up there day to day, because that has a huge influence on how they vote on items, how monies get allocated, what gets pushed. So it's just as important to go and speak with those people personally as well.
Did council come away with any strong commitments or cash in hand, not in your hand, but any commitment for stimulus money after the trip?
Well, we actually were able to submit a document to the legislators that had our number 1, number 2, number 3 items on there. Since we've come back, we've gotten actually quite a bit of stimulus monies for the Cross City Trail.
And do you think some of that was because of the D.C. trip?
Well, I do believe that all of that helps. I mean, can you pinpoint one specific item and say this is what turned it? I don't know that you can do that, but I do believe that that's part of a whole, and all of those parts really matter to make that wheel turn. So I thought it was an important trip, and I don't travel a lot, quite honestly, with council, as you can see from my travel records. I only go to things that I think are necessary for me to go to, something that I need to take away and learn from, and I thought that it was very important. So that's personally why I went.
Do you think the public overreacted?
Like I said, I think that people are upset from the top to the bottom, and reasonably so. I have the same everyday life that everyone else has. My company of IBM has done furloughs, resource actions, as they like to call them, but they're layoffs. We have just gone through 2 series. The week before I actually went to Washington, D.C. was the day that they decided on layoffs. It's difficult to tell your full-time job, hey, I need to take off time to go do my part-time job. at a time when they're doing those types of actions. And like I said, I thought it was so important that I go that I was willing to take that step in my normal 40-hour-a-week job to take off the time to go.
Do you think if times were better, it wouldn't have been an issue? I
think that that trip happens every year, and I don't ever recall a time when it got so much attention. So I'm not sure if the answer is yes or no to that question, but you know, today's times are certainly different, obviously, than they have been in the past.
Now, you're part of a council committee looking into city guidelines on travel. What are your recommendations going to be?
The audit committee, I'm the chairwoman of the audit committee. We just met on Monday of this week. We have been looking at the city council travel policy since March. Actually, before we went to DC, we had already started looking at allocations, and that was in preparation to get ready for the budget for this next coming year on what the travel budget's going to be, what priorities should be given, et cetera, et cetera. So this really just, truthfully, enabled us to make some additional changes to the policy that really needed to be looked at and haven't been looked at in a while. So
what changes are you going to recommend?
One of the I don't think spouses should be paid for. I mean, my company, if you take someone on a trip with you, the company doesn't pay for them. They pay for your lodging and they pay for your meals.
But in the past, city did pay.
That has been the policy for the city council in the past, but I think people, especially the council, realizes that it's just like any other policy. It needs to be reviewed, it needs to be changed from time to time, and now is the time to take a look at that and get that
The trip cost the taxpayers, I think, around $19,000. And yet the city attorney maintains that it wasn't official business. Was it, in your mind, official business?
Well, I believe that the wording for that was that it was not an official meeting. And truthfully, it's like your colleagues when you go out of town and you do business and you go to dinner and you sit down and you talk about family and you talk about kids and you talk about school and you talk about your personal life, and that's actually what was discussed at all of the function. There was no city business being performed while we were there. Quite honestly, you know, at dinner or when we would see each other out or have lunch together, you try to go out and interact with as many people as you can while you're there, because that's why you're there. But it's good to get back together as a group too, because that really creates a good working relationship with the people that you have to make decisions with. It's never a good idea for those 7 people to be gnashing teeth at each other all the time, and I think those types of environments for entertainment set up that type of mutual respect.
We're going to come back with our guest, Christy Tomey, Wilmington City Councilwoman. We'll talk about the convention center, the budget, and a lot more. Stay with us.